distinguished speakers on this event, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, and welcome to this side event organized by UNESCO and WFEO, World Federation of Engineering Organizations, at the United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. The team is utilizing open science principles for quality engineering education to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. My name is José Vieira. I'm professor in civil engineering and the president of WFEO, this World Federation of Engineering Organizations. This gives me the great pleasure to open this important side event at the United Nations High-Level Political Forum. WFEO's strategic vision is to communicate the importance of engineering in advancing the United Nations SDGs. We need no more engineers with right skills to meet this objective. This is why the work of WFEO in engineering education is extremely important. In this side event, we will explain that the work of WFEO and its members and partners in engineering education, and which involves UN SDG Goal 4, education, engineering Goal 16, strong institutions, and SDG 17, partnerships. Today, we will speak about the real work that is being done by WFEO members on a pro bono basis for the benefit of our members, institutions, and their individual members. The focus on this work is the improvement of engineering education standards to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. Secondly, we are building capacity in engineering education by training educators and developing accreditation standards and institutions to ensure the education standards. Thirdly, we have made a training portal available to all WFEO members at no cost and in the spirit of open science principles. We are delighted that UNESCO Assistant Director General, Natural Science Sector, Dr. Shamila Nair-Bedouelle, is with us today from Paris. UNESCO is an important supporter of the engineering education projects, which also align with UNESCO's strategic objectives in the natural science sector. Dr. Shamila, many thanks for your permanent support of WFEO initiatives. Professor Gong Ke, Immediate Past President of WFEO from China, will speak about the changes that engineer needs to meet the challenges of tomorrow. This was also presented in the second UNESCO engineering report released in March 2021. Dr. Marlene Kanga, WFEO President 2017-2019 from Australia, led the project for WFEO on the review of the international benchmark for engineering education with the International Engineering Alliance. The International Engineering Alliance governs this benchmark, which is also the foundation of mutual recognition accords and agreements across more than 30 nations. She will also speak about the capacity building projects for engineering education, which she is leading through the WFEO Committee for Education and the WFEO training portal, which has training materials generally provided by our partners, the International Engineering Alliance and the International Federation of Engineering Education Societies. Dr. Zaw Min Aung from Myanmar, chair of WFEO Committee for Education in Engineering, will provide case studies from Africa on capacity building in engineering education and the genuine progress that has been made. The committee has provided valuable secretariat support for the projects as they have progressed even in the difficult COVID period. Finally, Dr. Vimi Dookhun, head of Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, University of Mauritius, will report firsthand on the impact of the work being done by WFEO and its partners in Mauritius and the importance of quality engineering education in small islands developing states, especially for engineers with the right skills to address key issues such as climate change and infrastructure development. We hope that our presentations will provide you with a good overview of the work being done by WFEO in collaboration with its partners in international engineering education and be a model of successful international partnership to advance the United Nations SDGs. The benefit for the countries that are being supported are expected to be long-lasting and essential for sustainable development. After this, I invite all participants to post their questions in the Zoom chat box, as there will be questions and answer sessions after our panelists' presentations. Two of you, a very good, very excellent side event. I hope that you will be, of course, delighted as I am to be with these extraordinary presentations and speakers. So I will leave the floor to Dr. Shamila Nair-Bedouelle for her intervention. Please, Dr. Shamila, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much to our moderator. Excellencies, dear Professor Dr. Jose Vieira, President of WFEO and moderator of this event, Professor Gong Ke, Immediate Past President of WFEO, Dr. Marlene Kanga, WFEO President from 2017 to 2019, Dr. Zaw Min Aung, Chair of the WFEO Committee for Education in Engineering, Mrs. Gena, Civil Engineering student, Madam Vimi, who is joining us here also from Mauritius today, Dr. Gunalan, Chair of the WFEO United Nations Relations Committee and co-chair of the Science and Technology Group, distinguished partners, distinguished panel members, dear ladies and gentlemen. It gives me indeed great pleasure today to address you at this event, the UNESCO WFEO side event being held during the United Nations High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. The side event has been organized on the theme of utilizing open science principles for quality engineering education to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We have heard the opening by the Secretary General, who indicated that we really need to share science and share the benefits of science. So, Excellencies, dear distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen, how different the world would look today without engineering. It is really thanks to engineering that transportation has evolved from horse and cart to electric cars to high-speed trains and space travel. Documents that once crossed continents on ships now make the same journey with the blink of an eye. Homes that were once candlelit now turn on the lighting automatically when they sense movement. Vaccines have been developed for some of the world's biggest killers, such as smallpox and polio, and most recently for COVID-19. These developments and thousands like them that have transformed our lives over millennia is due to the magic of engineering. They are tangible proof of just how far humanity has come in terms of social and economic progress. We have engineers to thank for these modern comforts, but history does not stop here. Our work is not yet done. Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, last November in 2021, the 193 member states of UNESCO adopted the UNESCO recommendation on open science. This recommendation is the fruit of contributions from actors and stakeholders from all over the world of open science over a 2-year consultative process. In adopting such a recommendation unanimously at UNESCO's General Assembly last November, the member states have acknowledged the inclusion of national and regional perspectives in recommendation and expressed the desire for the participatory, collaborative approach to open science that characterizes the development of a recommendation to be carried over now into the implementation phase. Let me guide you briefly through some of the highlights of this historic UNESCO recommendation on open science. This is the first international normative instrument on open science. It contains the first internationally agreed definition of open science. It spells out the consensus, core values, and guiding principles of open science without, of course, compromising the rigor of science. It addresses multiple actors and stakeholders of open science, but it also recommends action of different levels of how to operationalize the principles of open science. And more than that, it calls for development of a comprehensive monitoring framework for open science. In this way, the recommendation identifies measures to make science and engineering more accessible, the scientific process more inclusive, and the outputs of science more readily available and more socially relevant to ensure that no one is left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, the key objectives of the UNESCO recommendation of open science are to promote a common understanding of open science associated with the benefits and the challenges and the diverse paths that would lead to open science. But another key objective of the recommendation is to develop an enabling policy for open science to thrive and to foster investment in infrastructures for open science and related services. The aim is also to foster investment in education, digital literacy, training, and other forms of capacity building. We would like to foster a culture of open science and align incentives for open science across the world. This recommendation also aims to promote innovative approaches to open science at different stages of the scientific process. And more than that, we want to promote international and multi-stakeholder cooperation in the context of open science with a view to narrow the digital, technological, and knowledge gaps within and between countries. So how will the open science recommendation bolster engineering education in the post-COVID-19 period? Ladies and gentlemen, the main problem facing the world today is the following. How do we reconcile our development with the preservation of our planet? There's no planet B. We need more engineers than ever to solve this conundrum. But we also need more engineers at both local and international level to tackle a range of pressing socioeconomic and planetary challenges. This includes climate change, biodiversity loss, widespread poverty, and water security. Yet engineers make up less than 10% of tertiary graduates in 40% of countries, according to the UNESCO Science Report and UNESCO Institute for Statistics. This shortfall is in danger of thwarting all our ambitions to reach our Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. This recommendation on open science will help to ensure that by sharing engineering education across borders in a transparent and a collaborative manner, we are able, therefore, to produce engineers who are at the cutting edge of technological and environmental advances that will set us on a faster path to sustainable development. Excellencies, dear participants, UNESCO was born after the Second World War in a bid to promote science, technology, engineering for a more peaceful world through education, culture, and communication. now more than ever, 75 years on, UNESCO continues to promote a more peaceful world through access through science, technology, and innovation. The world needs more quality engineering education for a more peaceful and sustainable world. It is in this spirit that UNESCO has joined forces with the World Federation of Engineering Organizations in an exceptional collaboration with the view to promote quality engineering education across the world. I would like to sincerely thank WFEO for all the extensive efforts across the world in promoting quality engineering for the SDGs and beyond. And we look forward to this strong collaboration, bringing on board additional partnerships, and I wish you good deliberations for the rest of the session. Thank you very much, and congratulations to WFEO. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shamila, for your more than inspiring words for us. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to Professor Gong Ke, our immediate past president of WFEO. Please, Professor Gong Ke.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Shamila. Shamila has just made clear the UNESCO Open Science Core Principles and how these principles relevant to engineering and engineering education. My topic today is about the changes that engineering needs to make and to meet the challenges of the future. What are the major challenges of the future facing by engineering? What are the changes needed in engineering profession? Since sustainable development and its 2030 goals are defined in 3 dimensions: social, economical, and environmental. Let us identify the major challenges and changes needed also from these 3 perspectives. First, the social perspective. We see that the issues of poverty, hunger, healthcare, education, and sanitation are getting worse during the pandemic. The abrupt and the radical changes brought by the pandemic made inequality worsened during the COVID-19 crisis, and the poverty level increased. For the first time in this century, the COVID lays bare the inequalities between countries and within countries, between men and women, and between different ages of people. Women and children are in particular the most vulnerable. According to UNDP report, women are the most affected by the COVID-19 crisis, as they are more likely to lose their source of income and less likely to be recovered by social welfare measures. The poverty rate among women increased in more than 9%, which is equivalent to about 50 million women. The pandemic has also caused child poverty to shoot up to 15%, according to UNICEF data. And it's strengthening the health, education, and the nutrition of millions of children. At least 24 million children are at risk of dropping out of school. Facing to these challenges, engineering should be changed to be more inclusive engineering. Among many others, engineering profession needs to be more gender equal and inclusive. Gender equality is crucial to achieve inclusive engineering. The achievement of full human potential and the achievement of full human potential and of sustainable development is not possible if only 1/2 of the humanity continues to be denied its full rights and opportunities. Mr. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, also mentioned during his words to the World Engineering Day 2021 celebration. He said, as a trained engineer, I'm passionate about the potential of engineering to help solve the most pressing challenges facing our world. But to truly maximize that potential, we must ensure women and girls have equal opportunities and representation in this field. He means engineering. WFEO highly values gender equality in engineering and works on improving engineering education and enhancing engineering capacity building for women, and set a worldwide award for women in engineering, which is supported by Greek corporate. But engineering is still one of the professions that women are least represented. We have to work collectively with all stakeholders to close the gender gap in engineering, remove education and promotion barriers, ensure women's engagement, retention, leadership, growth, and desire to stay in the profession, and to truly transform this profession, I mean engineering profession, to an inclusive one that female engineers share equal representation and opportunities. In addition, I do hope that the curriculum and the textbook of STEM courses become more attractive to girls, and there will be more female engineering role models in these textbooks. These will definitely help to change engineering to be a more inclusive engineering. Second, the perspective of environmental. According to the climate change emergency is threatening all of us. It is no need to refer to the IPCC report. All of us have already been experiencing the extreme weather, either cold or hot, and ever frequently storms, floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides, and many other disasters. WFEO is an active partner of COP, and we are warned by the COP26 in Glasgow last year. The world is off the track of Paris Agreement. All of these calls to change engineering to be a more resilient engineering and to be a low carbon, even net zero carbon engineering, and to help the world to get back on track to meet the 1.5 degree target. To be a resilient engineering, we need to answer, what does resilience mean for different engineering projects? We need to teach resilience in different engineering disciplines in engineering education. We need to implement proper measures to measure the degree of resilience and set related standards of resilience for different kinds of engineering projects and practices. To be low or zero carbon engineering, we need to answer, what is the relation of the different engineering practice with the carbon emission? To teach carbon emission related knowledges and skills, as well as negative carbon emission technologies, such as CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage technology in all engineering disciplines in engineering education, and keep updating the knowledge and skills in engineering professional development to find suitable technical means to measure the carbon footprint in different engineering practices and to set relevant standards of carbon emission directly and indirectly for different engineering practices. Third, the economic perspective. On the one side, the world economy has been heavily affected by the COVID pandemic and armed conflicts, and there has been underinvestment in infrastructure to support economic growth and reduce the risk of the next crisis. Clean water, better nutrition, improved sanitation, and broader public health infrastructure, and so on. Millions around the world still lack safe and secure housing, stable access to electricity, and fundamental public services. And the recent energy crisis is spreading and may keep escalating and even lead to a full-blown economic crisis. On the other side, the emerging digital economy enabled by digital technologies or in another word, the fourth industrial revolution is bringing about various opportunities. Digital technologies and their application are becoming pervasive, and engineering needs to be a more innovative engineering to carry out engineering in the new paradigm, which is characterized by ubiquitous interconnection, data driving, and AI empowering. Engaging with different technical fields, digital technologies could help engineers of today and tomorrow come through to tackle humankind's biggest challenges that are not only just now coming to light, addressing climate change through engineering innovations, helping smart cities, smart building, smart factories to achieve high energy efficiency and effective usage of renewable energy and improved management and services. Against the backdrop of the digital age, the skills of information communication and the data technology, I call it the ICDT, need to be built in every capacity building program or disciplinary curriculum of engineering education to make sure engineers, especially engineers of the next generation, will understand how emerging and disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things, blockchain, etc., can be leveraged for sustainable development. Here, I want to stress that we need to merge digital knowledge and skills into different engineering disciplines, not only the directly ICT-related ones, but to all, because we are in the process of digitization of engineering, and engineers must actively adapt themselves to this digital revolution. Engineering education and all engineering disciplines needs also to adapt itself to the digital revolution so that engineering will be more innovative and to better act its crucial role in the dual digital and sustainable transition of the world. Meeting the social, economic, and environmental challenges, the changing engineering to be more inclusive, resilient, zero carbon, and innovative, these require engineering to be more collaborative and responsible. Open science is a catalyst for engineering to be interdisciplinary and internationally cooperative. The values of open science, that are quality and integrity, a collective benefit, equity and fairness, diversity and inclusiveness, and the principles of open sciences could and should apply in engineering and engineering education. WFEO recognizes the importance of opening up science in engineering for sustainability. We are part of the implementation of the UNESCO's first global standard setting instrument on open science. A good example of global sharing and collaboration of research data would be the Open Science Initiative and a commitment to combating COVID-19. Researchers, as just mentioned by Shamila, researchers come together to provide immediate open access to their findings and share the results with WHO, helping to diagnose, prevent, and treat COVID-19 as well as vaccine development. We need to leverage collective brain power in engineering for sustainable development, and open science is important for the major interdisciplinary and international needs of engineering. Sustainable development is in nature a matter that is interdisciplinary, inter-organization, and international. In view of this, an engineer should not be limited by the knowledge and skills of his or her own profession, but also be able to cooperate with multidisciplinary and multinational teams. Open science could serve as a vital tool to achieve this mission, improving the quality of both scientific outputs and scientific processes from various disciplines and perspectives. Setting an universally accepted code of conduct is essential to a responsible engineering. This is the area WFEO should and could take a leading role. Responsible engineering encourages engineers to abide by engineering ethics in engineering activities, continuously improve technical competency, professional honors, and practical wisdom, effectively dealing with the ethical challenges brought about by emerging and disruptive technologies, conduct responsible research, innovation, and application. By enhance public trust in engineers and engineering activities, better benefit the environment, society, and humankind, and most importantly, advance sustainable development goals. For this purpose, engineering ethics should be reinforced in engineering education and professional development. The values of respect, protection, and promotion of human rights and fundamental freedom and human dignity, environmental and ecosystem flourishing, ensuring diversity and inclusiveness, living in peaceful, just, and interconnected societies should be implemented in engineering practices and well embedded into engineering curriculum and training programs. To summarize, the key words are inclusive, resilient, zero carbon, innovative, and cooperative, responsible. Such engineering are what we need for sustainable development. And all of this should be rooted in engineering education. I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Gong Ke, for your comprehensive approach to these social, economic, and environmental challenges for engineering education today and more important for the future. Thank you very much for your approach. And maybe I can highlight the theme about the gender equality. Is very, very important to emphasize this challenge to have more girls and women in engineering education. Thank you very much. Okay. Now I'll give the floor to Marlene Kanga. Dr. Marlene Kanga was our president since 2017, 2019. Please, Marlene, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Vieira. It's a real pleasure to be here and to hear the very eloquent presentations from ADG Shamila Nair-Bedouelle. We are really inspired by your speech on open science, and Gong Ke on your very inspiring presentation on the work that needs to be done to have more engineers and to change the dimensions of the skills that engineers have for the challenges of today and tomorrow. And I hope that my presentation now will follow on and show you the real action that we're implementing and that we're taking to follow these ideals, this vision, and to put it into practice. So here we have, just for those who are not familiar with WFEO in our audience, we are the leading international body for professional engineering institutions, founded in 1968 under the auspices of UNESCO. Our members comprise 100 national professional engineering institutions, 12 international and continental regional professional institutions representing some 30 million engineers. We are the co-chair of the major science and technology group at the United Nations, and Dr. Gunalan, who's here with us tonight, is representing WFEO at the United Nations Major Science and Technology Group. And we also represent engineering at the major UN organizations. Our story began at our 50th anniversary in Paris in March 2018, when we publicly declared our commitment as engineers to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals through engineering in partnership with UNESCO. And this declaration had three important components: a commitment to increase the number and quality of engineering graduates, to inform the global standards of engineering education, and to support the development of a range of engineering education systems that comply with these standards, and to support capacity building for strong institutions in engineering education. This followed on from a plenary declaration in Melbourne in November 2019, where UNESCO, WFEO, and the International Engineering Alliance once again declared their commitment, firstly, to recognize the International Engineering Alliance graduate attributes and professional competencies frameworks as the international engineering benchmark, and to support a review of this benchmark to meet the requirements as spoken so eloquently by Professor Gong Ke in terms of new technologies in engineering disciplines, new pedagogies, and to include contemporary values such as sustainable development, diversity, inclusion, and ethics. We committed to extend the global reach of these agreements and accords through capacity building efforts, such as mentoring and training, and to support the development of engineering education, accreditation systems and professional competency registration and licensing systems appropriate for each jurisdiction. We committed to support the development of professional engineering institutions through capacity building efforts to ensure engineering quality and standards, and also to develop national, regional, and international registers to facilitate the international mobility of engineers. And here we are signing that agreement in Melbourne. By way of background, the International Engineering Alliance provides governance for 3 accords and 4 agreements that provide that multilateral recognition of engineering education and the graduate attributes and professional competencies. The 3 agreements are listed here and relate to professional engineers, engineering technologists, and engineering technicians. And after graduation, for professional registration, there are similarly 3 agreements for engineers, technologists, and technicians, and an additional agreement for the APEC region for professional engineers. We published the Engineering 2030 plan again in early 2018. And this had 12 elements, but there were 3 important areas. The first, global standards for engineering education and professional development. The second, capacity building for national education systems. And the third, for capacity building for accreditation of engineering education and accreditation bodies, and for professional engineering institutions who are in fact the members of our federation. And we established 3 working groups. The first working group completed its work in record time in June 2021 in reviewing the global benchmark for engineering education. The second is a working group that is progressing right now with the development of national engineering education systems in 3 regions in Africa. And the third working group has established a training portal, which I will talk about, that will support the development of capacity and training for accreditation of engineering education bodies and professional engineering institutions. And of course, this work encompasses 3 important sustainable development goals. Goal 4, education, goal 16 for strong institutions. And of course, we can't do this without working in partnership with our peer organizations and UNESCO. And this work also underpins some of the recommendations that were made in the second UNESCO engineering report released March 2021 on the need for government, engineering educators, industry, and professional engineers to collaborate to increase the number and quality of engineers, to work in partnership to deliver the necessary international education benchmarks for sustainable development, and to recognize these benchmarks and ensure that they form the basis of national engineering education systems for engineers with the right skills, especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And the work that I'm going to speak about tonight is the activation and implementation of these recommendations. And of course, the support for UNESCO ensures that the benchmark, the new benchmark that has been reviewed, is the preeminent benchmark for engineering education. So here in summary is the work that's been done by Working Group 1. The joint working group comprised members from both WFEO and the International Engineering Alliance, representatives of IEA signatories and our members. And we completed the work in record time despite COVID lockdowns, and the new benchmark was approved by the signatories of the IEA just 12 months ago in June 2021. And this global benchmark addressed the very issues that Professor Gong Ke has talked about. The framework underpins engineering education and is set to transform engineering from the inside out. Engineers will now be required to consider the impact of their work on and how it advances the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including issues like the environmental impacts, Goal 13. The need to be able to work and implement diverse and inclusive engineering teams, to address emerging technologies and disciplines in engineering, to consider the rapidly changing technology environment and learning systems, including technologies, as mentioned by Professor Gong Ke. There's an entirely new element of ethics, and it considers a broad commitment to ethics, not just professional ethics, but ethics in relation to environment, to diversity and inclusion, to equity and diversity. It encourages all engineers to have a commitment to lifelong learning and to develop the skills for critical thinking, innovation, and the assessment of the outcomes of their work. And here it is published for the first time with support from UNESCO and WFEO, the gold-plated standard for today and tomorrow, and translated into 6 official UNESCO languages, which was completed courtesy of the Chinese Academy of Engineering in January 2022, and is awaiting approval this week, in fact, at the IEA General Assembly and publication. The decision to review and approve the new framework is of very great importance to engineering and to the world, because it will transform engineering with graduates who are critical thinkers, thoughtful about the impact and outcomes of their work, capable of working in diverse and inclusive teams, and committed to lifelong learning. This will ensure that engineering is carried out responsibly and ethically, use available resources efficiently, be economic, safeguard health and safety, be environmentally sound and sustainable, and manage risks through the entire life cycle of a system. The UN SDGs represent targets for 2030. Engineers are vital contributors to making progress towards these goals through this new benchmark. So now I will talk about Working Group 2, and the chair of our Committee for Engineering Education is the next speaker, Dr. Zaw Min Aung, will tell you more details. We have a working group that provides oversight over the 3 projects that we're now working on. And you see here our Zoom meeting that was held earlier in March. And once again, this group is working in partnership with IEA signatories and WFEO members. And the need for this group is clear. We have some numbers here for engineers from South Africa, but the key numbers are down the bottom of this page. In South Africa, generally, we have 68 engineers on average per 100,000 of population, but the range is 18 to 531. But compare this to what we see in developed countries, 850 per 100,000 in the US, and around 1160 per 100,000 in the UK. And in Australia also, it's around 1,000 per 100,000 of population. So you see there's a huge gap in the need for engineers in countries where there's a desperate need for resilient infrastructure to address climate change and so many other issues. And so here, these are the areas, Africa, Asia, and Latin America, where we want to work and develop capacity for more engineering. So we are doing capacity building for national engineering education systems. We're training and mentoring and supporting the development of educational assessment systems and accreditation programs. We are training educators and working with our partners, including the International Federation of Engineering Education Societies. We're supporting higher education institutions to develop their infrastructure and facilities to achieve the desired graduate attributes. And in fact, I was on the ground in Mauritius just last week, visiting the 3 universities there doing just that. And I think Dr. Vimi Dookhun later tonight will speak about that firsthand experience in her country. We're building institutional capacity for accreditation bodies, including training in terms of governance for these bodies so that they have sound, robust systems. We are developing regulatory frameworks, leadership governance and systems. And in the end, we're supporting all this by our national and international members. In summary, here are our 3 projects in Mauritius, in Kenya, and in Ghana. And we're meeting every 6 weeks to progress. And we have, in fact, made very significant progress. And we have a hub and spoke model because we are supporting countries in 3 regions of Africa, South, East, and West. And we hope that each of these will become a hub to support other nations in their region. Now, my 3rd project is capacity building for systems with training at scale through the WFEO Academy website. This website has been developed in partnership with the International Engineering Alliance, with the Federation of Engineering Education Societies, and the Global Engineering Deans Council. It consists of a webinar of content, of material that has already been presented, but it's structured training for accreditation bodies, professional engineering institutions, and educators. And we're also looking at professional development for engineers, technologists, and technicians in non-discipline specific training areas. And eventually we hope to establish national and international registers for qualified engineers, technologists, and technicians to facilitate their mobility. This academy is a great example of using UNESCO open science principles. It provides vital training at no cost to all. It uses innovation and advanced technology to make this content available. Individuals can register and take up courses and are issued with certificates automatically, with additional bronze, silver, and gold awards to encourage uptake of multiple courses. The courses themselves are available in nearly 100 languages and can be accessed by anyone, men and women, ensuring no one is left behind. Of course, the training is expected to have long-term benefit to the economies that are supported. We are using existing webinar resources, as I already mentioned, thus providing a wider audience. This is a sustainable approach. And we're using the knowledge and goodwill of hundreds of experts from around the world who are giving their time willingly for the webinars to build this knowledge and skill. And here are some examples in Arabic, in Hindi, in Swahili, and in Myanmar language to show you how diverse this website can be. And we are so grateful to Dr. Shamila Nair-Bedouelle for her support for this great initiative. UNESCO is a key supporter of this project, and I'm sure will engage its member states in promoting it because it activates open science and uses innovation and technology to transfer much needed skills to Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So thank you very much for your attention tonight. And I hope that you have got an impression of the real work that we're doing to ensure that we have more engineers for sustainable development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Marlene Kanga, for your always enthusiastic presentations. And here I can stress the idea that for us, for engineers, more than big and eloquent declarations, we are most interested in putting on ground our projects. So thank you very much, Marlene, and okay, thank you very much. Now we have Dr. Zaw Min Aung, that is the chair of WFEO Committee for Education and in Engineering from Myanmar. Please, Dr. Zaw, the floor is yours.
Thank you, our presidents and moderators. Dear our WFEO presidents, Dr. Josie, and our past president, Dr. Gong Ke, and Dr. Marlene Kanga as well, and Dr. Shamila Nair-Bedouelle from UNESCO, and distinguished panelists, excellencies, and all participants. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. So I like to enlarge. Sorry. Okay. So I am Dr. Zaw Min Aung, chair of the WFEO Committee on Education and Engineering. It's a great honor and privilege to be a panelist at the UNESCO WFEO site event, utilizing open science principles for quality education, engineering education to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As CI chair, I'd like to thank everybody involved in organizing this very important site event. So Dr. Shamila and Professor Gong Ke talked about focus on the important roles of the quality engineering education to the future, and Dr. Marlene focused on the importance of the graduate attributes and professional competencies for the engineer professional. So the capacity building is most important task to train the educators and managers and assessors and all educators in order to get the engineering quality education. So I will follow her presentations. So I'm going to present on capacity building in engineering education, case study from projects in Africa. So global warming, pandemics, conflicts, and other threats calls for process to quality engineering educations beyond conventional aims and action plans. So quality education, quality engineering education for sustainable development is very crucial. So WFEO, the co-chair of the Science and Technology group of the UN major group of the stakeholders, WFEO achievements of the past 2 years are very remarkable and well matched with the theme for the HLPF 2022. Building back together from the coronavirus disease while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So this our presentation would be on the mentoring work being done by the WFEO and its partner in international engineers. Sorry. The presentation would be on the mentoring work being done by WFEO and its partners in international engineering to align its engineering benchmarks with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The work is supported by UNESCO. So our committee has been receiving the mentoring support from the WFEO members and IE signatories such as National Board of Accreditation India, NBA, Pakistan Engineering Council, PEC, Institutes of Engineers Sri Lanka, IESL, China Association of Science and Technology, CUST, Board of Engineers Malaysia, PM, Engineering Council of the South Africa, ASCR, European Engineering Associations, and finally from our member Engineering Council, MNC. So the members or economies who are interested to be WFEO members seeking mentoring to become IEA provisional signatory status to the Washington Accord. So Washington Accord mentioned before, Dr. Marlene Kanga, there are 3 accords agreements she mentioned before in her presentation. So those countries are Institutions of Engineer Mauritius, IEM, Engineer Board of Kenya, and Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC as well. Regular meetings, regular mentoring sessions are held virtually with a systematically approach to build capacity to achieve international standards. That means that is the graduate attributes. There are 12 graduate attributes for the standards. The following are the member-many relationship activities via Zoom meeting. The picture is mentoring sections of Engineer Board of Kenya with Pakistan Engineering Council and Board of Engineer Malaysia. And this photo is the mentoring sessions of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission with the China Association for the Science and Technology, CAS and Associate MUDAC. WFEO mentoring working group for Institutes of Mauritius, led by WFEO Past President Dr. Marlene Kanga, and members were on site visit to Mauritius recently. And this trip was hosted by the Institutes of Engineers Mauritius. It's the next stage after establishing the appropriate structures, policies, and procedures. The goal of the team was to build capacity of accreditations and to review infrastructure facilities at the higher education institutes. Our team observed accreditation visit recently visited the facility and provide trainings to educators at civil engineering and chemical engineering department of the University of Mauritius, civil engineering program at the civil engineering department of university, and electrical and electronic engineering department of University of Technologies. Our team also had a meeting with the Minister for Science and Technology, Chair Higher Education Commission, Chair Quality Assurance Authority, Chair Council for Regulations of Professional Engineers, President Institutions of Engineer Mauritius, and Chair Institutes of Engineer Mauritius Engineering Accreditation Board. National supports from the government, Ministry of Education, and leaders of the tertiary education sector and university are very strong. So left side border at the opening session is the courtesy of Dr. Marlene Kanga, taken together with Chair Quality Assurance Authority, Chair Council for Registration of Professional Engineers, President Institutions of Engineers Mauritius, Vice Prime Minister and Minister for Science and Technology Mauritius, Mentor National Board of Accreditation India, Chair Engineering Accreditation Board of Mauritius, Chair Mauritius Institutes of Education, and Chair Tertiary Education Commission Mauritius, etc. Photo from the right side is taken together with the assessor teams for chemical engineer and observers at the University Mauritius. The first photo from the left-hand side, upper left-hand side, shows assessor team for the University of the Mauritius with industry represented and non-participatory observation by members. The second photo is a assessor teams for the electrical engineering, I mean on the right-hand side, and observer at the University of Technology Mauritius. In conclusions, mentoring tracking schedules are recorded to monitor the program and for future references. We have developed approach a wiser way to mentoring new economy seeking Washington signatory. Our committee, CI, thanks UNESCO and IE for their support in working closely and collaboratively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaw Min Aung, for your very impressive presentation on what we can do on the ground. And congratulations for our Committee of Engineering Education. Thank you very much. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Vimi Dookhun, that is the head of Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering of the University of Mauritius. Please, Dr. Vimi, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, Professor Vieira, WFEO President, distinguished members of the panel and participants. Greeting from the beautiful island of Mauritius. For those who don't know where is Mauritius, so this is where it is located on the east coast of Madagascar. And the topic that I'm going to cover to you is going to complement what you have heard in this session. It is about the importance of the quality education in small island developing states and the development of young engineers in Mauritius. When Mauritius became an independent country in 1968, it only had one tertiary education institution, and namely the University of Mauritius, which you can see here on the right-hand side. But since then, the country's tertiary education center has diversified and witnessed significant changes. As of 2014, the HEIs comprise of about 65 institutions, including 10 that are publicly funded, while the rest are mostly private institutions. It is to be noted that most of the private tertiary education institutions have non-awarding status, whether certificate, diploma, or degree, and all local counterparts of overseas awarding institutions. Of the public-funded institution, the University of Mauritius is the largest, with a student population accounting for 30% of the tertiary student population, and it is followed by the University of Technology Mauritius. The increasing population of the University of Mauritius over the last few years is considered as a strength, as it is a highly popular local institution, even after 50 years of existence. To ensure high quality education, the Higher Education Commission of Mauritius has been set up, and the local HEIs have regulated their courses either through institutional registration and program accreditation. Being a governmental body, this authority may not accredit engineering program as per desired engineering benchmark frameworks that was discussed by Dr. Kanga. This is an essential component for sustainable development, especially in Mauritius, which is facing many challenges, including climate change, and where swift, timely action and sound decision-making is primordial. Ensuring high quality of our engineering programs ensures that graduates have the desired attributes before they embark on important roles engineers have to play in society. It is also good to point out that many Mauritian nationals go overseas for tertiary education, either through scholarships or through private funding. The most favored destination being United Kingdom, followed by Australia. And the reason for them to move is because of they want better quality education, and they are ready to spend huge sum of money on international higher education institution of international repute. Since 2019, the government of Mauritius decided to make tertiary education free for Mauritian nationals. Students are awarded access to the public-funded institution mainly on merit on their qualification. But there was a fear that free education would mean poor quality education, hence the setting up of the Qualification Authority and Institutionalization of Higher Education Act in 2020. In the pursuit to raise engineering education in Mauritius, the IEM resolved to take up engineering program accreditation as one of its priority objectives and established a working group on engineering education accreditation. Experts from the UK participated in this project and guided a group of volunteers and the process of seeking membership under the Washington Accord. Since 2019, IEM has been mentored through the WFEO Engineering Education Capacity Building Program and in collaboration with the IEA and UNESCO. 2 IEA signatories from India and South Africa, respectively, were approved by IEA for mentoring, and IEM. Mentoring meetings have been conducted and hosted by the WFEO Committee Education in Engineering. As mentioned earlier by Dr. Kanga, the recent visit conducted proved to be very useful for the small islands of Mauritius. Not only did we learn about implementation of outcome-based education, but many local engineers received training of how to undertake assessment of engineering programs. The mentors, who also acted as observers during the mock accreditation, conducted visits to the 3 universities, as mentioned by Dr. Zaw, and the valuable constructive feedback were provided to the assessors on how they can improve. As also mentioned, There were action plans that have been developed for the universities to develop on the path to full signatory status with the IEA, which will enable the IEM Engineering Accreditation Board to conduct its own accreditation. The importance of this project has been recognized by the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, and we have top management support and commitment. And this is going to be a benefit for Mauritius over long term. In the end, I would like to extend a great thank to the WFEO, NBA, ECSA, IEA, and UNESCO for their commitment to align our engineering education benchmark with the UN SDGs and building capacity among our local engineers, technologists, and technicians, and ensuring that no one is left behind. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Vimi Dookhun, for your presentation, and your young woman engineer voice is always very important for us to have this kind of commitment from young people, and it's very important to have these kind of ideas for engineering solutions for mitigating the impacts of climate change. And this is very important, especially for the small islands developing states as Mauritius. So very important, this project, and thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have some time to discussion, and I open the floor to our speakers if they want to have some question or declaration for and feelings from the other presentations. So we have more or less 15 minutes to this. So please be free to have this kind of intervention.
Jose, I see a question posted in the Google Sheet. I think the question goes to Shamila. The question is, digital divide is being realized all over the world. It has been impacting my teaching of my engineering physics, earth science, and meteorology classes. How is UNESCO helping solve and alleviate this problem, especially in the harnessing of the private sector resources? So that is the question. I think
yes, Dr. Gong Ke. This is a question from Dr. Anthony Kinwell from the United States, Morgan State University. And okay, but my offer to have some other discussion is open, of course, but now we'll give the floor to Shamila to answer to this question, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Jose Vieira, and thank you, Professor Gong Ke. I would like to say that UNESCO is promoting open educational resources. And we have developed open educational resources with a number of different partners, online training, accessible to everyone across the world. We have a collaboration with WFEO, for example, where engineers can be trained online. And I would like to open this up also to the rest of the world. In the spirit of sharing scientific, technological, engineering information and engineering education, Marlene has also been hosting training for women engineers in different developing countries. So I thank you, WFEO, and our partners for assisting all of UNESCO member states in that regard. And we would like to make this accessible also to small island developing states. We have Mauritius also benefiting from this. But I would like to say that in terms of open educational resources, we have a sector which is called the communication sector in UNESCO. And this communication sector is promoting what is called the Communication Compact, enabling countries to access educational resources across the world. And we have also signed a contract with Google. They have made accessible to us the softwares for STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics education. And we ensure that all the products developed by UNESCO are accessible and open to all the member states across the world. And WFEO is an important partner for us to deliver on the needs for engineering, systems engineering, but also building women engineers capacities across the world and mobilizing, I would say, engineers from across the world to provide capacity building in this North-South, South-South cooperation. So we look forward to continue working with us. Certainly we need more partners and the work is not yet done, as I've indicated. So thank you very much for this.
Okay,
and I'm sorry, I have some technical problems in my system today.
No, but that's okay. We are hearing perfectly, Shamila. Okay. Marlene, I thought that you want to also say something. No.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Professor Vieira. I think that tonight the speakers have really aligned very, very beautifully in terms of the aspiration. We started with the aspiration from Dr. Shamila and from Professor Gong Ke, and then we talked about the work that we plan to do, and then the work that is actually being done, hosted by the Committee for Education, and then actually on the ground in Mauritius. When we put the concept note together, the visit to Mauritius actually had not been planned, and it was just fortuitous that it happened last week, and we were able to then report firsthand on the impact of this work and how it has pushed us forward. And it's a collective learning process and a journey that we're all on. We're getting better at doing this. And I think from this learning, we hope we can accelerate this progress to international signatory status. So I'm very hopeful that the delegates who are listening to this, this event will get the sense of how we have translated our ideas into action. Because I think it has really come together very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gong Ke, do you want to also have a word?
Let me talk something about the digital divide. I think that is a very important issue, especially when we use digital tools to deliver the education. I think the digital divide is mainly in 3 points. First is infrastructure. So we have to make joint efforts to help developing countries to improve the digital infrastructure, broadband access to the information, to the data. That's a foundation for all. Second is resources, as just mentioned by Shamila. And also WFEO is working with UNESCO together to make more open resources. Open educational resources is one of the pillars for open science. So we are working on it. And third, I think it's very important is the capacity, the digital capacity that relies on the education. So we have to intendedly to enhance the digital capacity, especially for developing countries, as just shown by Vimi. In her country, there are so many girls going into the universities. That is very encouraging, and we have to help them to get the capacity to access to the internet and to gain resources from themselves and to increase the learning efficiency. So I think that is very important. I just say something about this digital divide.
Okay, thank you, Gong Ke. I don't know if Vimi wants to have the word as well.
Yes, I just wanted to confirm what the point that Dr. Gong Ke made about engineering girls joining the university. And I just conducted a test this morning in one of my chemical engineering level 3, and there are all girls, right? Only one man for chemical engineering. So
No, this is not good.
this is a good sign that girls are taking up engineering and more STEM modules entering the STEM.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Zaw Min Aung, do you want to have also a word? First,
Thank you, President Jose. Digital to usage is important for the 21st century engineering education. That's why Dr. Marlene Kanga mentioned graduate attributes in her presentation. There are 12 graduate attributes. Among them, there are one most important criteria is a modern to usage. That is mean the first engineer are familiar with modern to usage, not only electrical engineer, but also civil engineer and even chemical engineer. There are so many software simulation application for the engineers. It makes a waste of time, waste of money, and something like that. And the good example is during the pandemic, they are advancing using digital technology platforms such as Zoom meeting and so on. So that's why it's not only in the cities but also in the rural area in Myanmar. If you have the mobile phone, you can learn even in the world is a global, is a village, good village. So even in the rural area, you can learn the advanced technology via YouTube and so on. So that's why we are trained the engineers to familiar with female or male engineers. We train to familiar with the modern to usage. That's why GABC included one of the digital to usage in terms of modern to usage. Thank you. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Professor Zaw Min Aung. Now, for my side, I must thank you very much. These high-level presentations and discussions for our speakers. And for WFEO, we will continue this work that is not coming from now. We will consider the pathway that we have already from the years before to put in the future WFEO as much as possible close to the ground and to have these kind of policies for the development of engineering education and for the development of the people. Now, I will leave for closing remarks the floor to Dr. Gunalan. Dr. Gunalan is our chair of the WFEO United Nations Relations Committee and is co-chair of Science and Technology Group in the United Nations, major group of stakeholders in the United States. So for my side is my last words, but of course we will have best words from our colleague Gunalan. Please, Guna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Jose Vieira. At the outset, I would, on behalf of UNESCO and WFEO, would like to thank all of you, the participants, for joining us today. I would also like to thank the HLPF Secretariat and UN DESA for giving us the opportunity to host this side event and to share with you all of the great work that's being done by UNESCO and WFEO to address the challenges of today to meet the SDG Goal 4 and meet the 2030 agenda. As always, very grateful to UNESCO and Dr. Shamila for their continued support. Dr. Shamila has always been very inspirational. Any young person listening to her today, how would they choose any other profession other than to be an engineer? It's always good to hear from you, Dr. Shamila. I'd like to also thank WFEO leadership, Jose, Gong Ke, and others, but a special thanks to Dr. Marlene Kanga, the architect for this side event at this HLPF 2022. I'd like to thank Dr. Zaw Min Aung, the chair for our education committee, for his leadership, and to the committee for all the great work and the vision that they have set out for this great program. And more importantly, to Dr. Vimi for being in the front line and to seamlessly executing the vision of our leadership. And to all those mentors who have helped Dr. Vimi and others on the ground to make this program a great success. And WFEO will continue to help anybody. And as probably pointed out, if you go to our website and look into the activities of the various committees, you should be able to log into the Committee on Education. And if you have any questions, please do post it to us, Dr. Marlene Kanga, Dr. Zaw Min Aung, or anybody else would be more than glad to answer or even help you to start and initiate this program in your country or anywhere else in your region. This is something that, as Dr. Jose just mentioned, this is not the end of the road. This is just a continuation of the great work and the pathway that has been charted out here to help the developing and emerging economies across the globe. Last but not the least, I would be remiss if I don't thank our Secretariat, our Executive Director, Jacques, and his team, Theo and Ivan, for helping make this event a successful one by developing the flyer, the concepts, and setting up the Zoom meeting. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for this opportunity to share this great activity of WFEO, and look forward to having this conversation in the coming years. And hopefully we will change the vocabulary and the dynamics of engineering education of the future to meet the needs and to meet the goals of 2030. Thank you all and appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I declare the end of this session, and keep safe, and see you next event of WFEO. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, tomorrow we have a joint event with
Yes.
ISD.
Yes, tomorrow we have a joint meeting with the International Science Council. So in the same way of these side events of the United Nations. Yes.
Thank you.
Same
And
tomorrow.
Friday, we launched the International Year for Basic Sciences. Everybody is welcome to UNESCO headquarters and join us online.
Okay.
Basic science, the beating heart of sustainable development. You're all welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Shamila. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations, WFEO. Once
Okay.
again,
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Shamila.
Thank you.
bravo, Jose, Madeleine, Gong Ke, Gunalan, Vimi, Zaw Min
Thank
Aung,
you. Thank
and all of WFEO. Fantastic
Okay.
work. Thank you.
Hope
Thank
to
you
see
very
you
much, team, too.
in Paris.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.